Hey everyone, welcome to a special series on Refining Rhetoric. I was just at America Fest from TPUSA's event in December, and we got a series of interviews, and I just want to share those with you. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Your organization is known worldwide, and we certainly appreciate every facet that you do.
I do believe in what you're doing because I've seen it in my family.
I'm so excited about all the things that, Robert, you guys do with Classical Conversations. It's been a huge blessing for our family.
Grateful for the work at Classical Conversations. You're a leader and you have been in this movement for a long time.
We love Classical Conversations.
I do feel like I have a debt of gratitude to you, your family, all of CC for just the fruit that has come from CC.
I appreciate all that you guys do, both through this wonderful podcast and also through Classical Conversations, which I am convinced is the best education resource out there. Thank you very much for all that you do for the cause of Christ and for our families and for our children. Really, really appreciate it.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Refining Rhetoric, and here I am at Turning Point USA's AmFest with my good friend Gabe Rench from CrossPolitic, and they've been nice enough to let me use their studio here to interview a number of people. So we're doing a special series on the Refining Rhetoric podcast, and make sure you check those out. So Gabe, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Robert, for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, so I've been on your show a number of times, and this is the first time you're on mine, so thank you. So
return the favor.
Yeah, I need to have you on more. So tell us a little bit about what CrossPolitic is.
Yeah, so CrossPolitic, we started it in 2016. Largely with I'm 46 years old, so at least my lifetime, I was not discipled on how to apply the Bible to politics and culture. And so I knew if there was a major gap in my biblical worldview, my biblical theology, I knew that others probably had just that same thing. I'm not a smart guy. I'm not a dumb guy. I'm an average guy. And so I know if I'm an average guy, there's a lot of people out there like me who were never taught well how to apply the Bible to politics. So in 2016, we started CrossPolitic with Pastor Toby, one of my pastors, and Chuck Knox, one of my friends who's a filmmaker. And God's been kind. We got on DirecTV and Dish, I think, in 2018, 19. We now do our own national conference called the Fight, Laugh, Feast Conference. That Fight, Laugh, Feast is a tagline within our show. And the reason why we came up with that is because we believe Christians need to fight together. Iron sharpens iron. Christians need to laugh. The joy of the Lord is our strength in Nehemiah. And then feasting. Feasting is just a big, major biblical theme that Christians need to recover, and it centers around the dinner table with your kids. I was at the Turning Point Pastors Dinner Wednesday night. I was joking with Lucas Miles and others there, and I said, I thought this was a Christian pastor's dinner. Why is there no wine here? But the point is Christians need to not be afraid of feasting. God gave it to us. It's a beautiful thing. So Fight, Laugh, Feast, that we think is kind of the mantra, the call to action of how Christians need to be taking over and taking back American culture. So CrossPolitic, Jesus is Lord over politics. And if we believe the Bible applies to every area of life, we for decades were taught that the Bible doesn't apply to politics, or don't talk about politics from the pulpit, or don't talk about politics and faith at the dinner table. I remember my grandpa in California were sitting down my mom and the grandkids, me and my brother and sisters, we were sitting down, and Grandpa prayed, and then he went into, I guess he thought he was discipling us or something, but he went into talking about, there's two things you never talk about at the dinner table: faith and politics. Yeah. And then he was the only one at the dinner table that was allowed to talk about faith and politics. So I think just we need to reframe and what our cultural battles are, and then we need to apply the Bible to every area of our lives, especially politics and culture. So that's what CrossPolitic is about.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because when I was meeting my wife's dad for the first time, he said, "Whatever you do, just don't talk about politics," because she remembered that her dad and her dad's dad got in a fist fight over politics when she was young. Okay. We were out there smoking a cigar, and about an hour later, she was like, "What are you guys talking about?" Like, politics. I was like, "Don't worry, we're on the same side.
No one's fighting. No one's good." That's really funny.
So yeah, absolutely. And so how's that journey been? Because the problem with our politics in the U.S. is we don't have a lot of Christians. Even the Christian, maybe 80% of them claim Christ, but they don't put out very much Christian law.
You know, so I would. My big thesis statement is I believe the church is responsible for the current condition of America, and the church is responsible because the church is the spiritual discipler of a nation, of its people, of its own people in the church, but of a nation also. And so, whatever spiritual condition and whatever preaching and teachings happening in the church is going to come out into the politics of America. And so, well, we know America is not very healthy, which means the church has not done a very good job discipling, as Jesus would say it, discipling the nations.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'd peg my thesis, and then everything around that touches it. How do we think about the family? How do we think about legal morality in society, biblical law in society? How do we think about all these things? It touches that because the church should be the center of the spiritual and moral climate of a nation. Now, I can't remember the end of your question there. So where am I going here? What's the end of the question?
No, so what have you seen? Like how have you guys been able to impact culture and the church's responsibility in politics?
Yep, I remember that. So when we started in 2016, we were the only show that was specifically talking about faith and politics. There's some other, apologia. They're talking about, apologetics and Mormonism and stuff like that. Or I think Al Mohler was doing his daily briefing then, but in the way we were doing it, as concentrated as we were doing it, it was taboo. Like it was, the emails I would get, the social media interaction, it was just like, why are you guys doing that? That kind of stuff. Now it doesn't seem as taboo at all. In fact, more people are doing Jesus and politics kind of shows now. And so I think we've, you can contribute to us or not. I don't care. But whatever's happened, it's now become way okay to talk about Christ, talk about the Bible, to talk about politics. And all of a sudden, and there's probably a number of reasons for this: transgender ideology, waking people up, the Biden regime, even though he wasn't really president, and what he did to our politics and trying
to get me canceled from YouTube.
Yeah, well, that was part of our journey. We've probably been canceled or suspended from YouTube probably something like 20 times.
Yeah.
And of course, that really started happening before 2020. It happened to us, but it really started happening in 2020, 2021. In fact, cancel culture hit us so hard. We used Vimeo for 6 years as a distribution platform of content to our club members.
Yeah.
Which means it's a password protect experience. Our Vimeo videos were not public. Well, we had Naomi Wolf on. Naomi Wolf's a Jewish liberal who kind of woke up during COVID, and we had her on, and on the show, we talked about Biden's connection to China with Naomi. And we uploaded that show, walked away. Next day, I get an email from Vimeo, and they said, "Hey, you have we've canceled your account. You violated our terms and private policy so bad we didn't even suspend your account. We just canceled it." Yeah. And so I was like, "What?" And I didn't even know it got us in trouble first, but then I figured it out.
Yeah.
And I replied to the email. I'm like, "Hey, I've had a contract with you guys for 6 years. Not even a warning, nothing." And then I asked them, I was like, "How do I get all my 6 years of videos off your platform, off Vimeo?" And they responded with here's an Excel spreadsheet, and here's 6 years of links that you can download to get all your videos back.
Wow.
So cancel culture hit us in very frustrating ways. Of course, YouTube was a problem, but then even things like Vimeo, which is, password protect content that wasn't even public, that hit us.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, one of the things I've been saying lately, or for a while now, is that, the Bible says that Christians must repent of our ways for God to heal our land. Like, he doesn't say, like, the pagans have to become Christians. He's saying the Christians have to follow me. And so I think that's been a big problem in the United States, and why we find ourselves here today is that Christians haven't been actually doing what God commanded us to do in the Bible. And your show has been a big part of helping people think through some of these policies.
Yeah. So, the way G.K. Chesterton said, he was asked to write, I think, an op-ed or an article for one of the local newspapers. I can't remember all the details, but they asked him, write us a thesis, write us an article on what is wrong with the world. And G.K. responded to that request and said, "Me."
Yeah,
I
am.
Yeah, I am wrong with the world. And centrally, what it means to be a Christian is mean to recognize that we're sinners, recognize that we're fallen, recognize that we aren't perfect, and we need Jesus' forgiveness of sins. If the church alone would lead America into repentance, I think that would accomplish so much reformation and revival in a way that it would shock the liberals. It would shock the world. Think of it this way: Christians still dominate our culture. Christians still dominate our major group populations.
Right.
I had a friend who was a political operative in Seattle, Washington, all Washington, particularly Seattle, because we know it's the I-5 corridor and everything. And he told me that if 80% of Christians in Seattle would vote, we would not have a socialist mayor and we wouldn't have a socialist city council member in Seattle. In other words, he's saying there's enough Christians in Seattle alone to make it a conservative bastion, a thriving bastion, and everything. So it just shows you, just the numbers wise, that Christians aren't engaged in politics, Christians aren't voting, Christians aren't loving their neighbor and actually helping control and put in policy and political people that would do well in our land.
Yeah. Now, you guys now have millions of views, and you guys are killing it. You guys got a daily show 3 times a day, shorts, all sorts of stuff going on.
Every year, we revisit and recalculate what we want to do and what we want to accomplish and what we think it's going to take to accomplish what we need. So this last year, we were doing 4 shows a week. And literally this next year, we're going to 1 show a week.
Okay.
So part of what's happened, and for good or for bad, not for good, so much competition's crept in to this, faith and politics space that there's a lot of noise out there. And so what you do is you always got to figure out, okay, how can I get better? How can I be better than the crowd? And so one of the things that we're going to do this next year, it may work or not, we're going to at least do it for the first quarter, make shift, but do 1 show a week. And with the goal of, so every half hour of production, you probably need about 2 hours. Every half hour of show and recording, you probably need about 2 hours of prep.
Yeah.
And so we're putting in about 5 hours of prep a week now for 1 show. And so we're digging deep. Our last show we did regarding Candace Owens and regarding kind of the whole TPUSA debacle that was going on in the fight. Well, we just dug deep into that. We listened to all of Candace's stuff. We kind of looked at what, it was a lot of work, and but one of the things that we pointed out in the show with Candace Owens is she's just not talking like a Christian. She's not talking about biblical justice. She's not talking in a way and doing journalism in a way that's honest.
Right.
And so the Bible has all sorts of things to say about Christian journalists. The Bible has all sorts of things to say about the proper way to be a journalist, and she's not operating in that way with TPUSA in the murder of Charlie Kirk. So we dug deep in that show. We went to make sure we were not misrepresenting her. We made sure we weren't misrepresenting other people that were involved in this debacle. And so that's the kind of shows we're going to be doing this next year, is where we want to dig deep and do hour and 20-minute long shows to make sure the content is rich and deep and hopefully goes far and wide as possible.
wokeandweaponized.com. Go there right now and get my new book. It outlines the history of American education and why the current public school system can't be reformed, it must be replaced. And this is a well-documented book. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin Merkel, for writing the foreword. And as Sean Ryan said, if you're a parent, read this book. Go to wokeandweaponized.com today. Now, you have a fitness show with your wife. Are you going to be continue doing that? Tell me a little bit about.
Yeah,
because you guys have been branching out. So tell me some of the stuff you've been branching out.
So part of what you're starting to identify here is we have this network called the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Fight Laugh Feast. Christians need to fight well together. Christians need to laugh well together. Christians need to feast well together. And well, that means we want to cover all sorts of topics. We got a great in the bullpen. Have you ever listened to Mark Dewey on our network, In the Bullpen?
Not often, but I've heard him.
Yeah.
Yes, all about sports, right?
He's baseball, and in the bullpen he's my favorite voice on the network. I mean, he's fantastic. Like, I used to be big into baseball. He actually kind of got me back a little bit into baseball with him. But just the way he delivers and how he talks about baseball and in regards to your faith and stuff, he's really good. He's probably like the best delivered show on our network. But my point is me and my wife started a faith and fitness show called Water Break on our network, and that's been a lot of fun to obviously my wife. But just even given the content and the topic of health and fitness and everything that's going on, our whole medical industrial complex is we've been lied to. and talk about all sorts of misinformation and wrong information in the medical industrial complex. I mean, even our food pyramid that we've been told to, for 30 years along that food pyramid's been, it's upside down. Like, it's not even correct. It's backwards. And so me and my wife started Water Break to be able to kind of address a lot of these issues from a faith perspective. A lot of the medical, health, faith, fitness industry, it's driven by fads, it's driven by money, or it's driven by some sort of latest trend. And we want, I mean, if we believe Jesus is Lord over our health and fitness, like, that's the basic standard of where we start to talk about our health and fitness. So that's what Water Break is about. We have our first summit coming up, our first health summit coming up, actually in March 28th. We got Ben Greenfield speaking. We got Sal DiStefano from Mind Pump speaking. We got Joel Green speaking at our summit. And we're very excited about our health summit coming up. And that our website actually for the summit's going to be live here in a week. So waterbreak.tv, where you can go for that. But that's, it's great. Every week I get to sit down with my wife for an hour and we talk about health and fitness. So
nice. Yeah, she definitely knows what she's talking about. But
yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the personality on the show.
She's the brain.
She's the personality. She's the brain. She's the smart gal. I'm literally. I obviously have some. I take far more theological side on this, and she takes far more of a scientific health side on it. So it's a good fit.
Nice. Yeah, and you guys, you recently launched, I think, at the beginning of this year, a Business Makers Network, because God is Lord over all things. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so actually, I started the Business Leaders Network, Christian Business Leaders Network, in this last year. Really, what happened was we had kind of a silent launch, soft launch, whatever you want to call it, and then a public launch in April. So we really went public in April. And the reason why I started this Christian Business Leaders Network, businessmakers.network, is because in 2020, actually, everything starts from 2020 right now. It seems like in 2020, after I was arrested, fighting COVID, all that stuff, President Trump retweets me. I had a bunch of Christian business leaders reach out to me because they're like, oh, this guy did something courageous. This guy stood up to tyrants. This guy didn't buckle under the COVID pressure kind of thing. And so they reached out to me, and, I had CEOs were part of other Christian networks.
Yeah.
And they told me, it's like, hey, my group, my Christian network is crumbling. They aren't fighting the COVID stuff. They're not fighting tyranny. I want to fight. So I'm not getting any good advice from my guys, from my group.
Yeah.
They're requiring their people to wear masks at work or sending them home to work from home, whatever. And so I had a lot of that feedback in 2020. I was in no position to do anything about it. But then over the years, I've had guys keep complaining to me, hey, you should start it. So finally, in 2024, I had time to kind of prep and create the business model that I needed, and I launched in 2025. Now, I like to talk in terms of my lifetime. I'm 46 years old, but in my lifetime, again, like the church never really discipled, pastors never really discipled us on how to apply the Bible to politics. And in the same way, I think the church, the pastors, the leadership has not done a good job on teaching us how to take over businesses, how to take over things that are out there in the world, And I remember going to church when I was, growing up, and the two thematic sermons I would hear if it got to business was, the first kind of sermon was, make sure you have a good work-life balance. Very kind of soft and a little cheesy, and even though you could find some Bible verses to support it, but it's like you're missing the signs of our times, in a lot of ways. And the other sermon I would always hear as applies to business was how if you're generous, make sure you give money away. Make sure you're generous. If you have a lot of money, make sure you're generous with your money. And of course, again, you can find some biblical principles there, but that's the sermon that everyone always hears. That's the main sermon when it comes to the rich people. Make sure you're generous, generous, generous. Paul says it again. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But why was I never taught the parable of the talent?
Right.
In Matthew 25, Jesus, the Master, Christ, explicitly teaches what faithfulness looks like to people who God's given much to. If you have 2 talents, faithfulness looks like turning it into 4 talents for Christ. If you have, let's put it this way, $25 million, faithfulness looks like $50 million. Now, there's other factors there. I don't want to flatten that parable out in a wrong way.
Sure.
But the point is that I think a lot of Christian business leaders in my lifetime, I think, put a lot of their influence and money and power in a bushel. And they buried it in their backyard, which is the exact place where Jesus condemns condemnation comes down in the parable, is the guy who buries his money in the backyard versus where's this post-mill worldview vision of what it means to be a Christian business leader in our society. Make more money, be faithful with it, of course, be generous, all that stuff. But actually, why aren't we thinking more like Elon Musk? Why aren't we thinking more like, what does it look like to be a billionaire?
Yeah.
And now, of course, money is a horrible God. We know that. So we aren't preaching like, find a new God kind of thing. Money is a horrible God and a great tool. And so, but why aren't we discipling and teaching our business leaders to go out and take dominion over business as opposed to, finding a good work-life balance or whatever, or start a 501c3 so you have good tax benefits or something like that. So that's the vision and mission behind businessmakers.network, is that we want to bring courageous Christian business leaders together to accomplish great things for the kingdom and for influencing politics.
Yeah, amen. I mean, we saw how the left wing has infiltrated the church, and definitely, a lot of pastors they're not business people, right? They just want to preach the gospel, but that's where we are. That's where we're operating. I mean, I think Billy Graham was the one who said that the next big movement for our country could be through the business community, and it's important that we have
100% agreed that.
People going, trying to figure it out together, and iron sharpening iron, and all of those good things. So, I just want to give you a copy of my new book, Woke and Weaponized, How Karl Marx Won the Battle for American Education and How We Can Win It Back. So
awesome.
Thank you so much for being on my show, Gabe, and thanks for letting me use your studio this week.
Yeah, man, you betcha. I love Alex Newman, who you co-authored this book with. Alex is fantastic, so good work on that. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Refining Rhetoric, and we are live here at Turning Point USA AmeriFest. God bless, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.